The merchant and the miller's son returned to town to find exhaustion overrun their home, as people frightened they'd be burned if they did not comply amassed the sum each side declared they'd need to fund their war. No matter what they give, it's not enough. Until we've given up our floors and doors and roofs and walls, we'll never give enough. The merchant took her husband's shaking hand. If no one else will, we'll protect our town. We needn't hold a sword to take a stand. We'll break the roads to slow their armies down, do everything we can to waste their time, till their reward's no longer worth the climb. The second prince withdrew his tulip blade to go discover why his carriage stopped. Your Highness, you should have the news relayed. I will not have the men I lead adopt a view that my life has more worth than theirs. I'm not a priest like you, so I must fight. Then once the fight's begun, you'll do your share. It took the prince a glance to know their plight. He was not even fully out the door when he observed the ravaged road ahead. This is no natural wear, of that I'm sure. A barricade to see our march stopped dead. I'll scout the town and see what I can learn. Command the men to wait for my return. The second prince made sure his steps were soft as he advanced along the broken road. The town had clearly pulled the stones aloft, so any march towards them would be slowed. And so our royal guest makes play a scout, the merchant said, her voice and stance like ice. You know my face? How did you find me out? You're standing in the street. I used my eyes. But how could you have known that it was me? There are no portraits painted of my face. Who else could someone with that weapon be? You're not a smith. This could be commonplace. The stories claim our second prince is shrewd. My son is 6. He's more astute than you. My army marches to protect your son, and every son and daughter who would lose their homes if vitriolic leeches run campaigns of made-up vengeance disabused of any thoughts of liability. What noble mandates hide designs to kill. My world will not be your casus belli. The prince's head shot up. So you instilled my sister with the will to scheme her flight to who knows where, while I was occupied with friends I'd lost come bearing distant plights. Ismoin and Suhit found the will to ride? Then Suhit's the one whose reform I'll believe in. I'll make her the time that she needs to achieve it. I don't need your permission to protect the people I am sworn to guard as prince. I chose this tulip pummel to reflect in action's toll, so I won't be convinced to turn my back on pain as I once did. Hence I am duty-bound to turn from you. He ordered men to work till they undid the damage wrought to stop them passing through. Then soldiers hauled themselves atop the ridge and watched their foes ascend the other side. Such spectre made a matchstick of the bridge. For terror, its enormity denied. The merchant went back home to find her son. She felt the crushing tide, and was not done. Mama, why is everything so scary? The merchant's son was clinging to her side. When they see you, they just won't stop glaring. Someone even says they've planned a landslide. The merchant's fingers stilled against her son. A landslide designed to cut off a supply line. By now, I'm sure it's far too late to run. If you believe that this is their design, then I will support you in spoiling their scheming. Ruzaila, I know you have already got something in mind to convince these invaders they're dreaming if they think that violence and bloodshed can come in without invitation and meet a reception of anything other than outright rejection. The miller's son approached the fiefdom's camp, his empty hands held high above his head. He's clearly not a threat. You needn't champ at every shadow on the road ahead, their general snapped when soldiers drew their blades. I take it you're a local from the town? That's right, I've come over to ask you to parley. Then tell me why I'd have my men back down. Just look at the state of your soldiers and horses, and look at the state of the enemy army. Experienced, loyal, and larger than yours is. Come rest and negotiate. What could the harm be? The general gazed across his camp and sighed. That's something I suppose I can abide. Rusila found the second prince and priest. You summoned your army to rescue my husband, she said before the prince could have her seized. But violence is not something you are accustomed to leading, regardless of what's been demanded of you since the day you were born as a royal. So please, for your friend, let me say what my plan is. My priest will say why those opposed must boil. Akera is the goddess of civilization. If war's your intention, the priesthood of Armor is far more equipped to indulge your persuasions. But I'll not condone such a nearsighted drama. We both share the blame for destroying that village. Its memory cannot be incentive to pillage. His anguish labeled by the priest's rebuke, the prince appraised the town he'd come to save. The silence on the wind was not a fluke. It screamed of people who could not be brave. With courage came the call to risk their lives. But generations could not be assured by loss of life, no matter how they strived to be the last. So quietude's allure that claimed to cost no more than ignorance supplied the hope they clung to in the dark the prince had rendered in belligerence. Myopia. What evil I embark. It's silence in my mind across the world. My duty now must be to keep it furled. The miller greeted leaders come to talk on what demands, if met, might stay their arms. Come sit, I've made you tea, you mustn't gawk. I find the cold deprives it of its charms. Was Onvan's manner crude enough to vex? Civility escaped him as a boy and flees him still, as though he cast a hex. I'll be the first to say that it's a joy, the fiefdom's general answered with a grin. He took his seat and blithely sipped his tea. Our mediator is my ally's kin. A master stroke, the general thought with glee. He said as much once they were out the door. Do not be fooled, for I will have my war.